I'm in one of the most beautiful places on earth right now, and I'm kind of depressed. I was just feeling really bad because I was waiting for somebody to save me and to just take me by the hand. But I've been depressed before, so I kind of already knew the progression, and I knew that this notion of I'm waiting for somebody to save me, that this is not gonna happen and this is keeping me down. I'm not feeling this for no reason. I'm not feeling this just because I put too much pressure on myself or because I'm not speaking kindly to me, even though that's probably part of the reason. I'm here because I was too content, because I was not living in a way that was aligned with myself. So I wanted to make this video because over the past 5 years I have moved away a lot from the person who I used to be and who I want to be. And it is a really weird experience. And I wonder how many people can relate to this, but I can remember who I used to be, and I can remember how I used to think, how it used to feel like to be in my head. And it's really painful to feel like in the past, in a similar conversation, I could have said much more interesting things. I would have had much more interesting thoughts. To like look up, take a look around in your life and feel like this is not authentic. Like if another person would look at my life, they would not derive me from it. They would think I'm a different person than I think I am at my core. Like I look up in my room and it doesn't look like me. And I look around in my environment, it doesn't look like me. And the reason for this is that for the past 5 years, I've done so many things as a means to an end. And I sacrificed a lot of other important things for this end. And the truth is, I didn't really get a lot closer to this end even, so it didn't even work. I realized all of this after a recent breakup. It was quite interesting because for the whole time, like since I met the person, I felt like they couldn't possibly love me back in the same way because I'm not enough in some areas. The word being not enough is a very loaded word, and maybe it's not the best word because it has some connotations that make it have a different meaning than it actually has. I don't know what a better word is though. I love them for certain aspects especially, and I didn't have those aspects in me to this degree at this point. I used to have them, so I thought this person is incredibly similar to me. I felt like they probably fall in love with very similar aspects as me. And how I view it with love. Obviously you can be different in some things, but you need to feel equal in some important aspects. And again, equal is such a weird word. And if I would talk about other people in this way, it sounds really harsh. And then I don't know what is closer to the truth. Maybe I should think about that. But the point is, if for one person it's super interesting what the other person says, and then for this other person it's not the same way the other way around. Because one person has like just spent more time getting input on things and like on a variety of things, and this other person has spent less time on that. Then one person will feel like inspired and challenged, and the other person will be like, like your thoughts, I've thought a lot of them already, which is also just the case if you don't spend that much time thinking original thoughts or diving deeper into topics. Yeah, anyway, so I felt like they can't possibly love me in the same way back. And I felt inadequate for the whole time. And the whole time I was unsure whether that is just coming from a place of low self-worth, but it's actually not true, or whether it is true. It turns out in the end it was true. And before people would tell me, oh, like you're enough. What are you talking about? And how people also love other people for their potential. But as much as that is like a nice thought to have, I think that in my case it didn't really work because our feelings were not the same for each other, and that created unequal dynamic. If you feel this the whole time, if you can feel it in so many different small ways that you're not being loved in the same way or to the same degree, then that is really difficult to live with. And I've seen this with a lot of other people as well, and it's also in a past relationship. And it also does things to the other person. I feel like if you have an unequal dynamic, then the other person is also worse at loving you because of some weird things happening. Like I'm feeling confused and pressured and repelled maybe because of this dynamic, and also often then of the other person having less self-respect, which certainly was the case for me. I didn't act in a very self-respecting way a lot of the time. I think probably just also inherently from being in a situation like that, from allowing that. And because I was emotionally dependent, because there's this person that you have these very strong feelings for, and they bring things with them that you otherwise don't have in your life, but that you value so much. And then if they're the only source of that, then it's very easy to feel emotionally dependent. And emotional dependence is just like, I don't know, it fucks up everything, I think, in a lot of situations. So yeah, I feel like the whole like loving somebody for their potential, I don't think it could have worked just because of the dynamic that the inequality in feelings created. Because I felt like I wasn't enough constantly, and that also creating bad dynamics, and I think you can only get out of that on your own probably. So in a way it was very beautiful. Just like all of the beauty that was there. Feeling like I now like know what it feels like to really love somebody, and how beautiful that is, and how incredibly strong I can feel, and how that makes you quite selfless. And also all of the nice moments that were there. And it's really hard to deal with that, because I feel like I don't have a lot of these things in my life, right? They were like beams of light or something. And that is part of the problem, right? And that is part of the reason why it couldn't have worked out, because obviously I'm not living authentically in so many ways. If these are things that I really, really value, but I like rarely have them. So to summarize the whole like being enough thing, I think it's just a matter of if one person can give the other person everything they want, but not the other way around, then that just doesn't work. And then in my case, it might be that the things that I couldn't give are things that I actually want to give, and where I'm not aligned with myself. So this all just made a lot of sense to me, because I wouldn't love myself in that way if I was the other person. And that doesn't mean that I think I'm unlovable or something. I can see a lot of lovable things within myself. But I think it was more like very beautiful, and it couldn't have happened in another way. And it shouldn't have happened in another way, even though it's extremely painful. I met them during a time where they were also struggling more, and we really helped each other there, and I think that's really beautiful. And I think it couldn't have happened in another way, because if the person was even more aligned with themselves at the time we met, then I don't know, like it might have just not developed into that. And if they were less aligned with themselves, I don't know, like similar to me, then I might have not had these feelings for them. And at first it was really hard to accept that, because first I thought that, oh, maybe we're just different. We just value different things in life. And that's a very easy thing to move on with. But then it turned out that we probably actually value the same things, but they got lost within me over the past years. And that was really hard, because it's really hard to let go when you feel like, maybe I can change something. But then I had these thoughts, and I was just really, really thankful to have met somebody where I saw myself in them, and because of that saw how I am not myself right now, steering me onto the right path. So because of that I feel like I could really let go, because if I become that person and we see each other again, and it was really that, like that was really the reason, then it would just work. If we haven't found somebody else. And if it's not that, then okay, then it actually doesn't matter, and then I become the person that I wanted to become. So either way, it doesn't matter, and either way, it's not about like proving myself to them or something. And I'm really grateful for them pointing out these things and pointing out what might be the main reason for these things, or like for why I developed so far away from myself. And it seems that one of the main reasons is doing things instrumentally, doing things just as a means to an end, and then not doing a lot of other things that would feel authentic. We as people and our personalities are quite fragile, and I feel like there's a lot of implications that come from that. We change all the time in subtle ways. So we're just like floating around through space, zero gravity. And there are all these really strong forces influencing us, and we have so little influence over this. So the things that we can influence are the people in our lives, huge factor, where we live and what we do, and to consider who we are going to become through these decisions. But then it's also in all the other things. Having this self-image and the person who we want to be being reflected to us, and not some other person that we then would become more through that. So for example, it can be as small as like, I need to buy a new notebook, and then I can just take any book. And like in the past I would have just done that a lot, right? I would have just been like, I don't have time, so I'm just gonna get any book. It's just a book, right? Why am I being so perfectionist about it? I should just be happy with anything. I don't know. These were thoughts that I had a lot during the last years. And they're fucking wrong for me. It matters. And I'm not perfectionist or somebody who never has enough when things are not enough, because I will know when enough is enough. And I didn't know that in the past, and I didn't trust myself there enough. But I realized that I know. I know when it comes to love. I know when it comes to relationships. I know when it comes to places, to things. And so when something isn't enough, I'm not gonna be complacent anymore. I'm not going to be like, oh, I should just accept it and be happy and grateful for what I have. And of course you should be that, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't change it. And then the reason I wouldn't change this is because I constantly thought that I didn't have enough time. I think the point that I was trying to make was just that we need to instantiate ourselves in the outside world to not lose ourselves. So these seemingly small things matter. But if I always feel like I don't have enough time, that's just gonna fuck everything up, and it makes me feel paralyzed, and it makes me feel like not put enough time into the things I should put time into. And so that is what this video, or these videos maybe, are about: seeing how to change things, where to go from here, how to become this person. And at the moment it feels really overwhelming to do it on my own. I think I shouldn't do it on my own, and I think that's one of the things I want to change. But yeah, basically I wanted to make videos about this because I want to take you with me on this journey of becoming, because I feel like I can do it even though it's really difficult. And right now it seems really overwhelming and I have no idea how to get there. But we're just gonna do one thing after the other. Have you ever been so lost? Known the road, but still so